It was a typical Friday evening, the kind that promised the weekend's sweet release from the monotony of work. I sat at my desk, staring at the remnants of a long week, papers strewn about, a half-finished cup of coffee growing cold beside me. My name is Jamie, and I've always been the sort to get lost in my thoughts, especially when it came to matters of the heart. As I glanced out the window, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a familiar ache, a longing for connection that had become all too routine in my life. The truth was, I had been feeling particularly lonely lately. My friends were all busy with their own lives, and while I enjoyed my job as a graphic designer, it often left me yearning for something more meaningful. The vibrant city outside my window buzzed with life, yet I felt like an observer rather than a participant. I craved intimacy, someone to share my thoughts with, someone who could see beyond the surface. That's when I heard a soft knock on my door. It was my neighbor, Alex, a striking figure with tousled dark hair and an easy smile that could light up any room. We had exchanged pleasantries in passing, but never really connected beyond that. He stood there now, leaning casually against the doorframe, his blue eyes sparkling with mischief. "Hey, Jamie, I was wondering if you'd like to come over for drinks." His voice was warm and inviting, wrapping around me like a cozy blanket on a chilly night. I hesitated for a moment, caught off guard by the invitation. "Drinks? Like just us?" "Yeah, just a casual thing," he replied with a shrug that seemed to downplay the significance of his offer. I promised not to bite. I chuckled nervously, feeling an unexpected flutter in my stomach at the thought of spending time with him alone. "Sure, sound good." As we walked over to his apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that this simple invitation held more weight than either of us realized. There was something magnetic about Alex, his confidence, his laughter. It drew me in like a moth to flame. Yet beneath that charm lay an air of mystery that intrigued me even more. Once inside his cozy apartment, I was enveloped by the scent of something sweet wafting from the kitchen. The walls were adorned with vibrant artwork, pieces that hinted at his creative spirit, while soft music played in the background, creating an inviting atmosphere. "Make yourself at home," he said as he moved toward the kitchen. "What do you want to drink?" "I have wine or some craft beers." "I'll take whatever you're having," I replied, trying to sound casual while internally battling nerves. He poured us each a glass of wine and handed one to me before settling onto the couch across from me. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and I felt an unspoken connection simmering just beneath the surface, a tension that made my heart race. We began talking about everything and nothing, sharing stories about our jobs and our favorite movies while laughter filled the room like music. But as the evening wore on and the wine flowed freely, I couldn't help but notice how our conversations began to shift toward more personal topics. "What's your biggest fear?" Alex asked suddenly, his gaze piercing through me as if he were trying to peel back layers of my facade. I hesitated for a moment. It was an unexpected question that caught me off guard. "I guess being alone," I admitted finally, feeling vulnerable under his scrutiny. "I've always struggled with feeling disconnected from people." He nodded thoughtfully, his expression softening as if he understood exactly what I meant. "Yeah, loneliness can be suffocating," he said quietly. "I get it." There was something about his honesty that drew me in further. It felt like we were sharing pieces of ourselves in ways we hadn't anticipated. As we continued to talk late into the night, I found myself opening up more than I ever expected, revealing insecurities and dreams that had remained buried for far too long. Yet even amidst this newfound intimacy, there was an undercurrent of tension, a palpable energy between us that made every glance linger just a moment too long and every touch feel electric. As Alex leaned closer to share a story about his childhood, our knees brushed against each other, a simple contact that sent shivers down my spine. "Do you believe in fate?" he asked suddenly, breaking through my thoughts as he searched my eyes for an answer. "Fate? Like destiny," I replied cautiously. "Yeah," he said thoughtfully. "Like how certain moments lead us to where we're supposed to be." I pondered his question for a moment before responding. "I think we create our own fate through choices we make," I said slowly. "But sometimes it feels like there are forces at play beyond our control." He smiled softly at my response, a knowing look in his eyes that made my heart race again. Maybe tonight is one of those moments, he said quietly. Before I could respond, he leaned in closer, our faces inches apart, and for a heartbeat suspended in time, everything else faded away. The tension between us crackled like electricity in the air. It felt as if we were teetering on the edge of something monumental. But just then, Alex pulled back slightly, as if realizing how close we had come to crossing an unspoken boundary, the moment hanging between us heavy with unfulfilled desire and uncertainty. "Sorry," he said sheepishly, running a hand through his hair as if trying to shake off what had just happened. "I didn't mean to make things awkward." "It's not awkward," I reassured him quickly. My heart raced at how close we had been to something profound yet terrifying all at once. As we settled back into conversation, though there was still an undeniable tension lingering between us. I couldn't shake the feeling that this night would change everything between us. What began as casual drinks had evolved into something deeper, something worth exploring despite any fears or uncertainties looming ahead. The evening air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine as I made my way back to my apartment after a long day at work. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood, and as I walked, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. My mind drifted back to my earlier conversation with Alex. His laughter, the way his eyes sparkled when he spoke about his art. There was something magnetic about him, something that stirred feelings I hadn't allowed myself to explore in a long time. As I rounded the corner toward my building, I spotted Alex sitting on the steps of his porch, a sketchbook resting on his lap. He looked up as I approached, a smile spreading across his face that made my heart skip a beat. "Hey, Jamie, you're just in time," he called out, his voice warm and inviting. "What are you working on?" I asked, genuinely curious as I settled onto the step beside him. "Just some sketches for a project," he replied, flipping the pages to reveal intricate drawings that seemed to dance across the paper. "I've been trying to capture the essence of our neighborhood." I leaned closer, admiring the detail in his work. "These are amazing. You really have a talent for this." "Thanks," he said, his cheeks flushing slightly at the compliment. "It's a passion of mine. Art helps me process everything going on in my head." There was something about his honesty that struck a chord within me. I had always admired people who could express themselves so freely. It was a quality I wished I possessed. "I get that," I said softly. "Art can be such a powerful outlet." We fell into an easy conversation, sharing stories about our lives and our dreams. As he spoke about his aspirations to showcase his work in galleries, I felt an overwhelming sense of admiration for him. His passion ignited something within me that had long been dormant. But as we talked, I couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability creeping in. Here was this incredible person sitting next to me, and yet I felt like an imposter in my own skin, an ordinary guy with insecurities that threatened to bubble to the surface at any moment. What if he discovered my flaws? What if he realized he could do better than someone like me? Just then, Alex glanced up from his sketches, catching me lost in thought. "Hey," he said gently. "Are you okay? You seem a bit distant." I forced a smile, trying to mask my internal struggle. "Yeah, just thinking," I replied, hoping to brush it off. "About what?" he pressed. Genuine concern etched across his features that I hesitated. Should I open up about my fears? About how being alone often felt like an insurmountable weight. But instead of sharing my insecurities, I opted for humor. About how you're going to become famous and leave me behind when you're rich and successful. I joked lightly till he laughed, a sound that rang like music in the stillness of the evening air. "Never. You'll be right there with me as my #1 fan." As we continued talking and laughing under the stars, I felt myself relax. Each moment spent with him chipping away at the walls I had built around my heart. But even amidst this connection, there was an undeniable tension simmering beneath the surface, a longing that made every brush of our arms feel electric. Suddenly, Alex closed his sketchbook and set it aside, turning toward me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "Can I ask you something?" he said quietly. "Of course," I replied, my heart racing as uncertainty gnawed at me. "What's your biggest fear?" His question hung in the air between us like an unspoken challenge. The vulnerability of it caught me off guard. It felt like an invitation to lay bare my soul. But as much as I wanted to share my truth, my fear of rejection and loneliness, I hesitated. Instead, I deflected with humor again. Spiders? Heights? Public speaking. He chuckled, but didn't let it go. Seriously, though, I took a deep breath and decided to be honest for once. I guess it's not being accepted for who I am, I admitted slowly. I've always struggled with feeling like an outsider. His expression softened as he nodded in understanding. I get that more than you know, he said quietly. Sometimes it feels like we're all just trying to fit into molds that don't really suit us. In that moment of shared vulnerability, something shifted between us. A connection deepened by honesty and understanding that transcended mere attraction. Yet even as we sat there together under the stars, basking in this newfound intimacy, doubt crept back in. What if Alex didn't see me as anything more than a friend? What if he was just being kind? The fear of rejection loomed large in my mind like a dark cloud, threatening to overshadow everything we had built in such a short time. Just then, laughter erupted from across the street. A group of friends gathered on someone's porch, enjoying drinks and music under twinkling lights. The sound pulled us back into reality, suddenly aware of how close we had become just moments before. Looks like they're having fun, Alex said with a hint of longing in his voice. Yeah, I replied softly, feeling a pang of envy for their carefree camaraderie, the kind of connection I yearned for, but often felt too shy or insecure to pursue. Do you want to join them? He asked suddenly. The thought made my stomach twist. Part of me wanted to stay right where we were, to keep exploring this moment between us, but another part craved social interaction and distraction from my swirling thoughts. Sure, I said reluctantly, standing up and brushing off my jeans as we walked over together toward the gathering crowd. A mix of familiar faces and strangers. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something significant was happening between us. Yet here we were stepping back into the noise of life outside our intimate bubble. As we joined the group and laughter filled the air once more, I caught glimpses of Alex stealing glances at me throughout the evening, each look sending butterflies fluttering wildly within me, but also reminding me of how precarious our situation felt, teetering on the edge between friendship and something more, while surrounded by others who remained blissfully unaware of what lay beneath our surface interactions. The night wore on with drinks flowing freely and conversations blending into one another until eventually, amidst laughter and music, I found myself standing slightly apart from everyone else with Alex by my side again, both lost in thought yet acutely aware of each other's presence. Hey, he said softly after a moment's pause, their voices fading in a background noise around us. Can we talk? My heart raced at his words. Anticipation coursed through me like electricity as we stepped away from the crowd toward a quieter corner where moonlight bathed us in its gentle glow. What's up? I asked cautiously, hoping against hope that this would be another moment where we could share our truths without fear or hesitation. I just wanted to say, tonight has been really great, he began slowly, his gaze searching mine for understanding, as if weighing every word carefully before continuing further into uncharted territory. It has been, I agreed softly, my heart pounding louder than ever before, wondering where this conversation might lead us next. But before either one of us could say anything more, a loud shout erupted from nearby, their laughter echoing through the night air, and suddenly all those unspoken feelings hung precariously between us again, suspended like fragile glass teetering on edge, waiting for someone to tip it over into uncertainty or clarity. The following weeks unfolded like a beautifully intricate tapestry, each moment with Alex weaving us closer together in ways I had never anticipated. Our initial connection had sparked something profound, and as we spent more time together, I found myself drawn to him in ways that both thrilled and terrified me. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Alex invited me to join him at a local art fair. The streets were alive with vibrant colors and the sounds of laughter, music, and chatter filling the air. As we strolled through the rows of booths, I marveled at the creativity surrounding us. Each piece of art telling a story, much like our own budding relationship. Look at that, Alex exclaimed, pointing toward a large mural painted on a nearby wall. The colors were bold and striking, swirling together in a dance of emotions that seemed to mirror my own feelings for him. It's incredible, I replied, feeling the warmth of his excitement radiate beside me. It's like it's alive. Exactly, he said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Art has this way of capturing moments and feelings that words sometimes can't express. As we continued exploring the fair, I couldn't help but notice how effortlessly we fell into conversation. We shared our thoughts on different pieces, our laughter mingling with the sounds of the crowd around us. Each shared opinion felt like another thread binding us together, an invisible connection that grew stronger with every passing moment. At the T1 booth, we stumbled upon a local artist demonstrating pottery. Alex's eyes lit up as he watched the artist shape the clay with deft hands. I've always wanted to try that, he admitted, glancing at me with a playful grin. What do you think? Should we give it a shot? Why not? I replied, feeling adventurous. Let's make some masterpieces. We signed up for a short class and soon found ourselves at a table covered in clay and tools. As Alex rolled up his sleeves, I couldn't help but admire how focused he became. The way his brow furrowed in concentration made my heart flutter. There was something incredibly attractive about his passion. Okay, let's see what you've got, he teased as I struggled to mold my lump of clay into something resembling a bowl. I think it's more abstract art, I joked back, trying to hide my embarrassment as I glanced at his perfectly shaped piece taking form beside mine. You're just being modest, he laughed, leaning closer to inspect my creation. Our shoulders brushed against each other, a simple touch that sent warmth coursing through me. Maybe I should just stick to graphic design, I said playfully, rolling my eyes at my own lack of skill. Nonsense. You're doing great, he encouraged, his voice filled with genuine support. Art is all about expression. It doesn't have to be perfect. His words resonated deeply within me. They echoed the very essence of what I had been searching for in my life, acceptance for who I was without fear of judgment. As we continued working side by side, our laughter filled the air around us, creating an intimate bubble amidst the bustling fair. After our pottery session ended, a mix of success and hilarity, we decided to grab some food from one of the many food trucks lining the street. The aroma of fresh tacos wafted through the air as we stood in line, our shoulders brushing against each other again, each contact igniting butterflies in my stomach. Do you want to share? Alex asked as we ordered our food. I'm always down for sharing. Definitely. Sharing is caring. I replied with a grin that we found a quiet spot on a nearby bench where we could enjoy our tacos while watching people pass by, couples holding hands, families laughing together. Each scene pulling at my heartstrings as I realized how much I longed for that kind of closeness. As we ate, our conversation flowed easily between bites, sharing stories about childhood memories and dreams for the future. The sun began to set behind us, casting a warm golden glow over everything around us. I used to think I wanted to be an architect, Alex confessed suddenly, his gaze drifting toward the horizon as if lost in thought. But then I realized how much I loved creating art instead. Why did you change your mind? I asked curiously. He turned to me with an earnest expression. I guess it came down to passion. Architecture felt too rigid for me. Art allows me to express myself freely without boundaries. His words struck a chord within me. They echoed my own struggles with identity and self-acceptance. I get that, I said softly. I've always felt pressure to conform, to fit into molds that didn't feel right. Alex nodded knowingly. There was an understanding between us that transcended words, a shared vulnerability that made every moment feel sacred. As darkness began to envelop us and stars twinkled overhead like distant promises waiting to be fulfilled, I felt an overwhelming urge to reach out and hold his hand, to bridge the gap between friendship and something deeper. But hesitation held me back like an anchor weighing down my heart. Instead, we finished our food and decided to take a walk through the park nearby, a decision that would lead us into one of those unforgettable moments that would forever change our dynamic. The park was alive with laughter and music, Families gathered around picnic blankets, while couples strolled hand in hand beneath twinkling fairy lights strung across trees like stars fallen from above. We walked side by side along the path, our shoulders brushing occasionally, each touch sending electric sparks racing through me. "Look at that!" Alex exclaimed suddenly, pointing toward a small clearing where a group of people had gathered around a fire pit, roasting marshmallows. "Looks fun," I replied enthusiastically as we approached the gathering crowd. "Want to join them?" he asked playfully. "Sure. Let's make some s'mores." As we settled down near the fire pit, surrounded by laughter and warmth, the crackling flames casting flickering shadows across our faces, I felt an overwhelming sense of belonging wash over me. It was as if all my fears melted away in that moment shared under starlit skies filled with possibility. We took turns roasting marshmallows, our hands brushing against each other more frequently now. A simple touch igniting sparks of desire within me that threatened to spill over into something more tangible than friendship alone. "What's your favorite part about summer?" Alex asked suddenly as he expertly toasted his marshmallow until it was perfectly golden brown that I paused for a moment. It was such an innocent question, yet it stirred emotions deep within me, feelings I had long buried beneath layers of self-doubt and fear. Honestly, just being outside, feeling free, I admitted finally after gathering my thoughts again that he nodded thoughtfully before replying, "Yeah, freedom is everything." As we shared s'mores and stories around the fire, the warmth enveloping us like an embrace, I could feel tension building between us again. Unspoken words hung heavy in the air around us, a mix of longing and uncertainty swirling together like smoke rising from the flames before dissipating in a night sky above. Just then, a sudden burst of laughter erupted from across the fire pit. A couple playfully shoving each other while trying not to drop their marshmallows. And in that moment, the lightheartedness broke through any lingering tension between us as laughter bubbled up uncontrollably from deep within me. It felt so good, so freeing, to share this joy together amidst everything else swirling around you as the night deepened further. We eventually said goodbye to our new friends gathered around the fire pit and began walking back toward our apartments under shimmering stars twinkling brightly above us. Each step felt charged with anticipation, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. Waiting just beyond reach. "What a night," Alex said softly beside me as we strolled along, the moonlight illuminating his features beautifully against dark backdrops surrounding us. And for once, I allowed myself to hope that maybe, just maybe, this connection between us could blossom into something more than either one of us had dared imagine before. But even amidst this blossoming intimacy, doubt crept back in again like shadows lurking just outside reach. What if things didn't work out? What if pursuing this connection meant risking everything? As we reached my apartment door, I turned toward him reluctantly, my heart pounding wildly against my chest, as if urging me forward, to take that leap into unknown territory where vulnerability awaited just beyond threshold, separating friendship from love. But before either one of us could say anything more, the moment hung suspended between us, a fragile thread woven tightly, yet threateningly ready to snap at slightest breath. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between Alex and me grew palpable, a tightrope stretched between friendship and something deeper. Each moment we spent together felt charged with unspoken words and longing glances, yet I hesitated to cross that invisible line. I feared that if I took the leap, I might fall into an abyss of rejection or ruin the beautiful connection we had built. But deep down, I knew that the time had come for us to confront what lay beneath the surface point one Friday evening. After a long week filled with work and distractions, Alex texted me, "Want to come over? I have something I want to share." My heart raced at the thought of seeing him again, but a knot of anxiety twisted in my stomach. What could he possibly want to share? I arrived at his apartment just as the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light through the windows. The atmosphere felt different, charged with anticipation. Alex greeted me at the door, his expression serious yet hopeful. "Hey," he said softly, stepping aside to let me in. "Thanks for coming." "Of course." I replied, trying to gauge his mood as I entered. The familiar scent of his cologne mixed with something sweet wafting from the kitchen filled my senses, making me feel at home yet on edge. "Can I get you something to drink?" he asked, moving toward the kitchen. "Sure. What do you have? Wine or beer?" he called back over his shoulder. "Wine sound great." As he poured us each a glass, I took a moment to absorb the space around me. The art on the walls, the soft music playing in the background, and the way the light danced across his features. There was something undeniably intimate about this moment, and it made my heart race even faster. Once we settled on the couch with our drinks in hand, Alex turned toward me, his expression earnest. "So, there's something I've been thinking about," he began, his voice steady but tinged with nervousness. That I held my breath, feeling a mix of excitement and dread. "What is it?" He took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. "I've been feeling this connection between us, something more than just friendship, and it's been driving me crazy not to talk about it." My heart soared at his words. They echoed everything I had been feeling but hadn't dared to voice. "I feel it too," I admitted softly, my voice barely above a whisper. His gaze locked onto mine, intense and searching, as if he were trying to read my thoughts. "Then why haven't we done anything about it?" "I guess I was afraid." I confessed, my vulnerability spilling out like an open book. "Afraid of ruining what we have." Alex nodded slowly, understanding flickering in his eyes. "I get that. But what if this is something worth exploring? What if we're missing out on something amazing because we're too scared?" His words resonated deeply within me. They were a call to action that ignited a spark of courage buried beneath layers of doubt. "You're right," I said finally, feeling a rush of determination wash over me. "We can't keep dancing around this forever." As if propelled by an unseen force, Alex leaned closer, our faces inches apart, and in that moment, everything else faded away. The world outside ceased to exist. It was just us, two souls standing on the precipice of something monumental. "I want you," he said quietly, sincerity lacing every word as he searched my eyes for confirmation. My heart raced wildly in my chest as I whispered back, "I want you too." And then it happened, the moment that would change everything between us, a gentle yet electrifying brush of lips as our mouths met for the first time. It was soft at first, tentative, as if we were both testing the waters, but then it deepened into something more passionate and urgent. The kiss ignited a fire within me. Every worry melted away as our bodies instinctively moved closer together. My hands found their way to his hair while his arms wrapped around my waist. A perfect fit that felt both exhilarating and terrifying all at once. In that kiss, there was no hesitation, only pure emotion swirling around us like a whirlwind of desire and longing. It was everything I had dreamed of and more, a culmination of all our shared laughter and vulnerability, leading to this single point in time where nothing else mattered but us. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and wide-eyed, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Reality crashed back in like a tidal wave, our breaths mingling in the charged air between us as we processed what had just happened. "Wow," Alex murmured softly, still holding on to me as if afraid to let go. "Yeah," I replied. Breathlessly, shock coursed through me as joy bubbled up from deep within, a mixture of relief and exhilaration flooding over everything else swirling around us moments ago. "I didn't expect that," he admitted with a nervous laugh, but there was an undeniable warmth radiating from him that made me believe otherwise. "Neither did I confessed honestly, yet despite everything else weighing heavily on my mind, I felt hope blooming within me, a fragile yet powerful thing promising new beginnings if only we dared embrace it together." We settled back onto the couch together, this time with fingers intertwined. We both knew we had crossed an important threshold. Everything had changed between us irrevocably, but instead of fear or doubt clouding our minds, we embraced it wholeheartedly, the promise of new beginnings shimmering brightly ahead like stars illuminating an endless night sky. But even amidst this newfound intimacy, a flicker of uncertainty lingered just beneath the surface. What would happen next? Would this connection withstand whatever challenges lay ahead? Just then, a loud crash erupted from outside, the sudden sound jolting both of us back into reality and breaking through our fragile bubble like glass shattering against tile floors. What was that? Alex asked quickly, his eyes wide with concern as he stood up abruptly from couch while running toward window nearby. Anxious energy radiating off him like heat from flames licking at edges, surrounding us both as he peered outside. I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming urge to reach out, to pull him back into my embrace where safety awaited just beyond chaos threatening to spill over into everything else surrounding us. But even amidst distractions, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever this connection was becoming, it was worth exploring further despite any obstacles standing in our way. The days following that pivotal kiss with Alex were a whirlwind of emotions, an intoxicating mix of joy, fear, and uncertainty. I felt as if I had stepped into a new world, one filled with vibrant colors and possibilities, yet the shadows of doubt loomed just beyond the horizon. Our connection deepened quickly, and we began spending more time together. Late-night talks on my balcony, quiet dinners at his place, and stolen moments that felt like secrets shared between us. But with each passing day, the reality of our situation began to settle in like an unwelcome guest. I was acutely aware of the complexities surrounding our relationship. Alex was still navigating his feelings for Jenna, and I couldn't shake the fear that our budding romance might be built on shaky ground. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, I received a text from Alex. "Can we talk? I need to share something important." My heart raced at the thought of what he might say. Would it be about Jenna? Would he want to take a step back? When I arrived at his apartment, the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with something sweet wafting from the kitchen enveloped me. But as I stepped inside, I noticed a tension in the air that made my stomach twist. Alex stood by the window, looking out at the city below, his expression serious. "Hey," he said softly as I entered. "Thanks for coming." "Of course," I replied, trying to gauge his mood. "What's going on?" He turned to face me, his eyes filled with a mix of determination and uncertainty. "I talked to Jenna," he said finally to him. My heart sank. "And she deserves to know everything," he continued, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "I told her about us." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. He had chosen honesty, but it was quickly followed by anxiety. How'd she take it? Alex ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Not well. She was hurt and angry, understandably so." He paused for a moment before continuing. "But I couldn't keep lying to her or myself." "Are you okay?" I asked gently, stepping closer to him. He nodded slowly, but looked away as if trying to process everything at once. "I just feel terrible for hurting her." My heart ached for both of them. Jenna had been a significant part of Alex's life, and now everything was changing in ways none of us could have anticipated. "You did what you felt was right," I reassured him softly. "I know," he replied, turning back to me with an intensity that made my heart race again. "But it doesn't make it any easier." As we stood there in silence, each lost in our thoughts, I felt an overwhelming urge to reach out and comfort him, to remind him that we were in this together despite the challenges ahead. But even as our connection deepened further, I couldn't shake the feeling that this newfound intimacy came with consequences. There were still unresolved feelings lingering beneath the surface, a mixture of guilt and desire that threatened to unravel everything we had built. The following days were filled with tension. Alex and Jenna navigated their own path toward closure while I tried to be supportive from the sidelines. But every time my phone buzzed with a message from him, every time we shared a laugh or a tender moment, I felt an undercurrent of anxiety gnawing at me. What if this connection wasn't enough? What if pursuing this relationship meant tearing apart someone else's happiness? The fear of rejection loomed large. What if Alex ultimately chose Jenna? Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, rumors began swirling around work. It started innocently enough, a casual conversation overheard between colleagues, but soon escalated into whispers about my relationship with Alex. "Did you hear about Jamie?" One coworker said conspiratorially over lunch. He's been hanging out with Alex, Jenna's boyfriend. I tried to brush it off as idle gossip at first, but as more people chimed in, some supportive but others judgmental, the weight of their words settled heavily on my shoulders like an anchor dragging me down into murky waters. The next day at work was unbearable. Every glance from coworkers felt like scrutiny. Every whispered comment sent shivers down my spine as insecurities bubbled up within me like boiling water threatening to spill over. During a break in the office kitchen, one colleague approached me directly. "So, is it true? Are you dating Alex?" She asked casually, but with an edge that made my stomach churn. I hesitated before responding. Part of me wanted to deny it altogether, to protect myself from judgment, but another part craved honesty and authenticity. "Yes," I admitted finally, my voice barely above a whisper. Her expression shifted slightly, surprise mingled with concern as she leaned closer. "Just be careful. You know how messy these situations can get." Her words hung heavy in the air between us, a reminder that love often comes wrapped in complications and uncertainties that can threaten everything we hold dear. As the days passed and gossip continued to swirl around me, I found myself grappling not only with external pressures, but also with my own internal conflicts. Feelings of inadequacy crept in like shadows lurking just beyond reach. Reminders that perhaps I didn't deserve this happiness after all. One evening after work, I decided to confront these feelings head on by reaching out to Alex. We needed to talk about everything happening around us, the pressure from outside forces threatening our connection, and how we could navigate through it together without losing ourselves along the way. When he arrived at my apartment later that night, the familiar warmth radiating off him instantly calmed my nerves. But even amidst comfort, I could sense an underlying tension lingering just beneath surface, waiting for opportunity to strike again. "Hey," said softly as he stepped inside, his gaze searching mine for understanding, as if sensing all turmoil swirling within me, even without words spoken aloud yet. "Hey," I replied cautiously, my heart racing wildly against chest as anticipation coursed through veins while uncertainty loomed overhead like storm clouds gathering just beyond horizon, waiting for moment unleash chaos upon unsuspecting world below. We settled onto the couch together, each lost in thought for a moment before finally breaking. Silence between us again. Vulnerability hung heavily in air around us, a mix of longing and fear swirling together like smoke rising from flames licking edges surrounding us both. "I've been thinking about everything," I began slowly, my voice trembling slightly as emotions threatened spill over into reality surrounding us both. But before it could continue further, Alex interrupted gently. "I have too," he said quietly, his expression earnest yet filled with uncertainty, reflecting back toward me from depths within eyes, searching mine, desperately seeking clarity amidst chaos, threatening pull apart everything built between us thus far. "I just want you to know," he started again before hesitating momentarily, gathering thoughts carefully before continuing once more. "No matter what happens, I care about you deeply." His words struck deep within heart, a mixture of relief flooding over everything else swirling around us moments ago, while also igniting flickers of hope buried beneath layers self-doubt, threatening consume entire being whole if didn't confront head-on. Right then there amidst uncertainty looming overhead, waiting patiently, just beyond reach. "I care about you too," I admitted, finally feeling courage swell within chest, urging forward despite fears lurking nearby, ready strike again at slightest hint. Vulnerability exposed once more. But even amidst newfound intimacy, a flicker doubt lingered still just beneath surface, waiting patiently for opportunity arise again, threatening unravel everything built thus far between us both. "What if this doesn't work out?" I asked softly, my voice barely above whisper as fear threatened spill forth, once more threatening drown out everything else surrounding us, both completely, leaving nothing behind except echoes, memories, fading slowly away in a night sky above. Alex reached out, instinctively grasping hand tightly within own. A gesture-filled warmth radiating off him like heat from flames licking edges surrounding us, both urging forward despite fears lurking nearby, waiting patiently, just beyond reach ready strike. Again, its slightest hint vulnerability exposed once more. We'll figure it out together. He promised, earnestly squeezing hand, gently reassuringly, while searching eyes desperately seeking clarity amidst chaos threatening pull apart everything built between us thus far, leaving nothing behind except echoes, memories, fading slowly away into night sky above. But even amidst comfort, I couldn't shake feeling uncertainty lingering just beneath surface, waiting patiently for opportunity to rise again. Threatening unravel everything built thus far between us, both leaving nothing behind except echoes, memories, fading slowly away into night sky above. As we sat there together, holding hands tightly amidst uncertainty looming overhead like storm clouds gathering just beyond horizon, waiting patiently unleash chaos upon unsuspecting world below. We knew one thing for certain. Whatever lay ahead would be fraught challenges, but also filled moments worth fighting for, if only could find way through. Tangled web emotions without losing ourselves along way. The days that followed our heartfelt conversation were a mix of uncertainty and hope. Alex and I had laid bare our feelings for each other, but the reality of our situation still loomed large. The fallout from his conversation with Jenna hung over us like a dark cloud, and the whispers at work didn't help either. But despite the chaos swirling around us, I felt a sense of clarity emerging from the storm point one evening. I found myself sitting on my balcony, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink hues. The world felt alive, vibrant, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something had to change. I had spent too long living in fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment. It was time to embrace who I was and what I wanted. That I picked up my phone and texted Alex. "Can we meet? I need to talk." His response came almost immediately. "Of course. When?" "Now," I replied, my heart racing at the thought of seeing him again. When he arrived, the warmth of his presence filled my apartment, but there was an air of tension between us. We settled onto the couch, and for a moment, silence enveloped us, a comfortable yet charged silence that hinted at everything left unsaid. "I've been thinking," I began, my voice steady despite the fluttering in my chest. "About us." Alex looked at me intently, his expression a mix of hope and apprehension. "Me too. I know things have been complicated," I continued, "but I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to be afraid of what others think or how this might affect Jenna. What we have is real to me." His gaze softened as he listened, and I could see the weight of his own fears reflected in his eyes. "I felt the same way," he admitted quietly. "I care about you so much, Jamie, but it's hard to navigate everything right now." "I get that," I said gently, "but we can't let fear dictate our lives. We deserve happiness, and if that means being together, then we should embrace it." He nodded slowly, processing my words as if weighing them against his own feelings and concerns. "You're right," he said finally, his voice stronger now. "I've been so focused on what could go wrong that I forgot to consider what could go right." With those words hanging in the air between us, something shifted, a realization that we were both ready to take a leap into the unknown together. "Let's figure this out," I said softly but firmly. "No more hiding." As if propelled by an unseen force, Alex leaned closer, our faces inches apart once more. And in that moment, everything else faded away again. The world outside ceased to exist. It was just us, two souls standing on the precipice of something monumental once more. "I want this," he whispered before closing the distance between us again, our lips meeting in a kiss that felt like coming home after being lost for far too long. The kiss deepened with urgency, a blend of passion and vulnerability that ignited a fire within me once more. This was no longer just about desire. It was about connection, about embracing who we were together without fear or hesitation. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and wide-eyed again, I could feel my heart racing in my chest as joy flooded through me. It was as if every worry melted away in that single moment shared between us. "Wow," Alex murmured softly, still holding on to me as if afraid to let go. Yeah, I replied breathlessly. Shock coursed through me as joy bubbled up from deep within. A mixture of relief and exhilaration flooding over everything else swirling around us moments ago. I didn't expect this tonight, he admitted with a nervous laugh. Neither did I. I confessed honestly. Yet despite everything else weighing heavily on my mind, I felt hope blooming within me. A fragile yet powerful thing promising new beginnings if only we dared embrace it together. As we settled back onto the couch together, this time with fingers intertwined, we both knew we had crossed an important threshold. Everything had changed between us irrevocably, but instead of fear or doubt clouding our minds, we embraced it wholeheartedly. The promise of new beginnings shimmering brightly ahead like stars illuminating an endless night sky. In the days that followed our decision to embrace our relationship openly, the world around us began to shift as well. While Jenna needed time to heal from her heartbreak, she ultimately respected our choice to be together and even offered her support as we navigated this new chapter in our lives at work. While some whispers lingered, most colleagues offered their congratulations rather than judgment. It seemed that honesty had disarmed any potential backlash against us, allowing space for acceptance instead. With each passing day, I felt myself growing stronger, more confident in who I was becoming, no longer defined by fear or insecurity, but rather by love and authenticity that blossomed beautifully amidst everything else swirling around us. Both one afternoon, while walking hand in hand through a local park filled with vibrant flowers blooming all around us, I turned toward Alex with gratitude swelling within my chest. He had helped me find courage within myself that had long been buried beneath layers self-doubt, threatening consume entire being whole if didn't confront head-on, right then there amidst uncertainty looming overhead, waiting patiently, just beyond reach. Thank you for being you, I said softly as we paused beneath a cherry blossom tree, the petals drifting down like confetti, celebrating newfound love surrounding us both. He smiled warmly back at me. There was something undeniably beautiful about this moment, a shared understanding that no matter what lay ahead, we would face it together. As we stood there beneath those blossoms, surrounded by laughter echoing from nearby families enjoying their own moments, I felt an overwhelming sense of hope wash over me. Love is not always easy or straightforward, but when it is true, it shines brighter than any star, illuminating even the darkest nights. And so began our journey together, not without challenges, but filled with moments worth fighting for. If only we could find way through tangled web emotions without losing ourselves along way with each step forward. I knew one thing for certain. Whatever lay ahead would be fraught challenges, but also filled moments worth fighting for. If only could find way through tangled web emotions without losing ourselves along way.